Finally, after so long of you guys asking, I have caught up with Bleach. Now, to be clear, when I say caught up, I mean I read up until 1000 Year Blood War and then watched the anime because I want to see part 3 as it airs. And yes, I know that technically means I haven't finished Bleach, but I finally read Bleach and then watched part 1 and 2 of the 1000 Year Blood War anime makes for a dog poo title, so get over it. If anything, it's more fun this way because I can actually speculate a bit about what I think is going to happen in the upcoming parts of 1000 Year Blood War. I do have some valid criticisms and issues with Bleach, but overall I really enjoyed my experience with it, and I can definitely see why so many people think of it as the father of modern day shonen manga. Actually that's Naruto. Shut up, I just don't care. Anyway, before getting into my criticisms though, I'm just gonna go ahead and hard glaze this shit real quick, because I have been desperate to share my thoughts on this masterpiece of a manga for a very long time now. Also, if we can miraculously get this video to 1000 likes, then I will most definitely be posting more Bleach videos. Anyway, let's get cooking. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Bleach's amazing cast of characters. Normally in a story with as many key characters as Bleach has, I often find it overwhelming and only really pay attention to a select few that I like. And yeah, I'm kind of talking about One Piece there, but whatever. With Bleach though, how should I put this? Everyone is f***ing awesome. Even that one-trick pony Bankai spammer captain is cool, and he literally just exists to be duped by Aizen and then use his Bankai. Now, I'm sure the Bleach fandom have this weird agenda war of their own, where some characters get hate for no real reason, but I genuinely can't think of a single character that I dislike or find even somewhat annoying. However, I'm sure fuck. However, I'm sure you're wondering who my favorites are and why, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give you a quick top 5 favorite characters from Bleach, with some honorable mentions of course. My number 1 favorite character in all of Bleach is of course Kisuke Uruhara. Why? Because he's awesome. Do I need much more of a reason? I mean, I really like strong characters that also have a decent amount of depth and something that distinguishes them from every other strong character in the verse. Uruhara literally fulfills all of these requirements, so yeah, he's my favorite. And not only that, but I also love the fact that he's a bit of a dark horse when it comes to strength, mainly because he's actually rarely ever shown using it. Basically, he's just got hella aura is what I'm trying to say. The main thing I love about him though is that his strength as a Soul Reaper isn't what makes him so dangerous. His genius brain and Kido abilities make him somewhat of a wild card that can win against pretty much any opponent, even if they're stronger than him. I mean, after all, there is a reason that Yhwach classified him as a special threat alongside people like Yamamoto and Ichigo. He's just built different, and what's there to not love? Also, there's definitely a bit of a Gojo inspiration there, so yeah, that helped a lot. I mean, it's like when he called up Robo Captain with a solution to all of the Bankai stealing that had been going on. I just loved it. It was so hype. I also know that he learned Bankai in only 3 days, just like Ichigo, but I haven't seen it yet, so that's 100% one of the things that I'm most looking forward to. My number 2 favorite character is, of course, Kenpachi Zaraki, simply because he is broken as hell and a complete monster. I will never forget the moment where he rocks up with 3 dead Sternritters impaled on his blade. Every other captain was literally going extreme diff with the Quincy with their Shikai, but Kenpachi deadass just off-screen 3 of them like it was nothing with just his sword because he doesn't even have a Shikai. God, he's so cool. And then not to mention that he even defeated himself by simply choosing to become stronger. Like, that's some Sukuna level shit right there. Normally I would complain about some lazy explanation like that, but it just works so well with Kenpachi for some reason. I am actually really hoping he uses his Shikai and Bankai at some point, especially after seeing that amazing Kenpachi vs Kenpachi fight with Uruhara. Anyway, my number 3 favorite character in Bleach is obviously the main character himself, Ichigo Kurosaki. Now, if you are a regular viewer of my channel, then you will know that I normally don't care for main characters that much, and it takes a lot for them to get into anywhere close to my top 5. But it seems like this has been changing recently because Luffy, Yuji, Chihiro, and now Ichigo Kurosaki have easily become some of my favorite main characters of all time. Still not number 1 in their verse, but it's better than not caring at all, you know? Now, I like Ichigo for a very similar reason to why I like Luffy and Chihiro. There's no crying or weak-mindedness to overcome, they just get straight to the point being an absolute badass. And having recently just learnt the very long set up secret of Ichigo's true nature, I think I like him even more now. He's just one of those characters that makes you feel like everything's gonna be fine when he pulls up, regardless of how strong the opponent he's facing is. But this can also kind of be a bad thing, which I'll get into a little bit more later. Basically, I think Ichigo's just cold as fuck. Number 4 and 5 are a lot more difficult to choose between, and I think they'll probably surprise you a bit. I'm giving my number 4 favorite character spot to Ichigo's dad, Isshin. Now, I've actually had Isshin in my top 5 since the beginning of the manga, before we even knew that he was a Soul Reaper. I also had a strange feeling that he was secretly gonna be a Soul Reaper, and I'm so glad I was right, because goddamn, that reveal was awesome. Initially, his bubbly and eccentric personality made him very lovable, but seeing him pull up with Uruhara to fight Aizen just brought him to a new level of cool, which was intensified even more now that I know he used to be a captain. My number 5 is a really hard one to choose, but I think I'm gonna go with Byakuya Kuchiki. His Shikai and Bankai are awesome, and he has some amazing character development throughout the series, especially in that Soul Society rescue arc. That shit was so good. My only complaint is that he always has some beautiful death scenes, but never actually dies. My honorable mentions actually go to Renji, Captain Bankai spammer, and of course Gin Ichimaru for being beautifully written with an amazing conclusion. Now, trust me, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my god, he made a top 5 character list and didn't even mention Aizen? Are we sure he's been reading the right series? Well, don't worry, because it's deliberate. Okay, that's probably gonna make you worry more. Basically, I know this will come as a shock to most of you, but as much as I find Aizen cool, he's actually one of the few parts of Bleach that I have some big criticisms about, which I will discuss shortly. Before switching shit up to the more negative, critical stuff though, I quickly want to glaze my favorite Bleach arcs and moments and then give them a rating out of 10. I'll be honest with you, it took me a while for Bleach to actually hook me. The first 80 chapters are definitely not bad, but I wouldn't say I was hooked. But all that definitely changed when the Soul Society rescue arc started. It was our first proper introduction to the Soul Society and the 13 court guard squads, along with their badass captains. Honestly, for a manga of its time and size, I was really shocked at how consistently well-paced Bleach was all the way up until 1000 Year Blood War. And this especially shows in the Soul Society rescue arc, because that shit is paced like Shibuya, and I love it. It was just straight to the point with cool fight after cool fight, and then with each one harder than the next one. A load of new characters were introduced, and they were all given good depth and awesomeness without needing to cut away to a 10-chapter backstory every single time that we see them, like we do in One Piece. The best example of this is, of course, Kenpachi Zaraki, who just sort of shows up and then is like, aha, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, it's cool. I like it. Now, despite the constant fights and new characters though, many backstories and snippets of information were still carefully sprinkled throughout, leading up to a very good payoff. The best examples of this are, of course, Rukia's backstory, Byakuya's development, and of course, all the Aizen stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Unfortunately, Aizen's fake death didn't fool me, because I already knew that Aizen was gonna be a main antagonist in the series. However, I did still enjoy the build-up a lot. I am also lucky enough not to have Aizen's ability spoiled for me, so it was really fun working out that as the arc progressed. What I love most about this arc though is that it started with the very simple premise of Ichigo entering the Serete, running a gauntlet, and then saving Rukia. But thanks to Aizen, it almost became a civil war where we got to see the captains actually challenging each other, which I admit is a very effective way of giving them more depth and exploring them more without having Ichigo just straight up beat them. Now, Ichigo's Bankai versus Byakuya's Bankai was also an amazing moment that I need to point out, because I think it stands above the rest in terms of that arc. Overall, the Soul Society rescue arc gets a solid 9 out of 10 for me, which for context is also what I'd score Shibuya and the Culling games, so it's a pretty high score. I held back from giving it a 9.5 out of 10 though, because somehow there is an arc in Bleach even better than this one, which of course is 1000 Year Blood War. I haven't even started part 3 yet, and I already know this shit's a 9.5 out of 10. It might even be a 10 out of 10, I can't lie. The animation, the music, the location, the Nazi Germany-inspired invasion of the Quincy, some of the best fights I have ever seen, and some of the most hype moments I have ever witnessed. It genuinely has it all, and I literally have no complaints about it so far. It's so good. The only reason that I think nothing from Bleach will ever really get a 10 out of 10 from me is because, as much as I still think it's deep and well thought out, the story remains relatively simple compared to my 10 out of 10s like Attack on Titan. Okay, Attack on Titan is my only 10 out of 10, but you get the point. Fortunately, Bleach does everything else so well that it doesn't really need any more complex of a story than it already has. And don't get me wrong, I still think it's exceptionally well written. I just want to see an Uruhara and Kenpachi Bankai reveal. Bankai? No, Bankai, whatever. I want to see their Bankais because, like, damn, they're both so cool. And you telling me I've gotten through, like, what, 600 chapters and I haven't seen them once? If I don't, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Overall, though, 1000 Year Blood War is just an amazing arc, and I'd very easily give it a 9.5 out of 10. I'll be honest with you, since watching 1000 Year Blood War, I think Bleach might have just narrowly overtaken One Piece in my rankings. Now that I've shared my highlights, though, I want to finally move on to discussing some criticisms that I have, starting with Aizen. Now, I know Aizen is a much-loved anime antagonist, and he is often held as the standard for a good anime villain. I'll admit my perception of him is probably skewed by having the Aizen hype before reading it, but I have found him slightly underwhelming and incomplete as a character. Don't get me wrong, he's not a bad villain at all, but he just didn't live up to the hype for me. And yeah, it's a shame that I had expectations in the first place, but that is just how the internet works these days, and avoiding spoilers with what I do is kind of impossible, so I apologize for that. However, I do think I would hold the same opinion anyway, just because I know what I like in a manga. My main problem with Aizen is that I feel the mangaka actually used a mainly tell and no show method to build him up, which I'm really not a fan of. He gets so many moments of, oh, I actually masterminded this from the shadows, it was all me the whole time type shit, but we rarely actually get to see him mastermind anything. He just sat in his chair the whole time, looking bored, and then lost to Ichigo after absorbing the Hogyoku? Hogyoku. You know what I mean. I understand his themes of searching for strength and a worthy challenger, and these are themes that I normally enjoy, but it doesn't really hit as hard when it's all revealed and just sort of dumped on you in the last moments of the arc. Also, he didn't even fully mastermind the whole plan, because he did just steal what he needed from Uruhara, who happened to make exactly what Aizen needed for his plan. I also just felt like the final fight was cool, but too simple. After all, it was ultimately just Uruhara's scheming that led to Aizen's containment, rather than Ichigo's very convenient last-minute training. Basically, I feel like he needed more of a backstory and moments where we actually see him masterminding shit instead of just being told that he did. He also just lost way too easily in my opinion. It felt very anticlimactic. That's just my thoughts on it though, and don't get me wrong, I still think he's a very good villain, just not as good as he's hyped up to be. Another more trivial complaint that I have is actually about Captain Yamamoto. We saw very clearly just how insanely strong he was when he was fighting the pseudo Yhwach, and yet he still stands around scratching his head when the other captains are going extreme diff with Aizen's Espadas and the Sternritters. He doesn't even have to go all out, but he could have literally taken every Arrancar down with ease when Aizen was trapped inside his flames. So why wasn't he? I mean, you could argue that it could just be really boring that way, but then just give him something to do. Like, give him a reason not to be going around picking everyone off one by one. Like I said, it's a very trivial issue, but it still frustrated me so much. Bro's just a dickhead letting everybody else get beat up. A less trivial complaint that I have about Bleach, though, is that there are some classic anime things that are massively overused. I mean, if I had a penny for every time a character lost their powers doing a big final move, only to regain them 10 chapters later, then I would have at least 4 pennies, which is too many. I mean, first there was Rukia at the beginning, but that made sense and was fine. But then there was Uryu losing his powers fighting Robo-Captain, only to regain them with special training. Why? Like, why? It's so unnecessary. Just make it a temporary burnout like in JJK or something. And then there was Ichigo losing them against Byakuya, which was also very unnecessary, and surprise, surprise, Uruhara knew a very convenient special training to fix that issue too. And that was enough. We really didn't need any more of this. But of course, the big final move that he trained for months to learn so he could beat Aizen also resulted in him losing his Soul Reaper powers. Again, why? It ultimately changed nothing about the story because it's clear as day that he will get them back anyway. Honestly, it's lucky that Kubo made up for this by at least making the way Ichigo did regain his powers really fucking cool. Having Uruhara use everyone's spiritual pressures to make a sword that Rukia stabbed Ichigo with to restore his powers, yeah, that was clean as fuck. That final battle at the end of the Fullbringer arc definitely made up for how boring the rest of the arc was. Although I do understand why it was necessary. And then this of course brings me on to my final big criticism, which I like to call the secret training cycle. You know, just like the Sukuna cycle. The cycle goes like this. New opponent. Oh no, they're too strong. Complete a secret final training. Beat the opponent. Oh no, an even stronger opponent appears. Oh, it turns out there's an even stronger and more secret final move that you can learn, so it's fine. And so on, and so on. Genuinely, I've lost track of the amount of times that Ichigo has had a power-up that we literally only learn about when it's needed. The one in 1000 Year Blood War Part 2 is fine though, because that was actually set up and foreshadowed for a very long time. The rest of them feel completely completely arse-pully and just kind of boring. Overall though, I have genuinely enjoyed my experience with Bleach, and it has easily earned a solid 9 out of 10 for me. I mean, the world, the characters, the power system, it's all amazing, and I cannot wait to catch up with part 3. In fact, I might actually start reacting to the new episodes on my second channel, so make sure to go subscribe to that just in case I do. Anyway, as always, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to join the Discord and follow me on Twitter, links below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.